Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Conshy. I am your host, Teresa Von Paris. I'm glad you've joined us. Please like and share this video, and we'll be right back after this brief introduction. Good morning. Welcome back to Good Morning Country. Anything is possible. If I can do it, so can you. And that is our today's quote by Danny Bowman. I'm so glad that you're here with us for another episode of Good Morning Country. And today, this month, we're celebrating Autism Awareness for the month. And our guest today is exactly in that space. Today, we have with us Erica Wharton, MSLBS. She's a licensed behavioral therapy specialist specializing in working with individuals who are diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Mother to Tyler, who is 7 years old and diagnosed with autism. Erica, good morning to you and welcome to Good Morning Country. So glad to have you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
My pleasure, our pleasure. So you're here, you not only are in the autism space, but you're living it each day. Tell us about it and how you actually got involved with this prior to being diagnosed with your son, Tyler.
Right. So prior to my son Tyler being diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, I did go to school for mental health counseling where I earned my master's degree under the human services field. I have always had an interest working in the mental health field at the age of 19 years old. So I started at Montgomery County Emergency Services when I was 19, and then I just continued on with the mental health field because I knew that was my interest and that's something that I wanted to do as became an adult. After my master's degree, I did get licensed with the State Board of Medicine to work with kids with autism spectrum disorder. I work with kids from 2 to 21 years of age. Being that wraparound, they discharge them at 21 years of age, and then we are able to transfer them and recommend adult services after that. My son Tyler, he was actually diagnosed on November 17th, 2017, when he was about 2.5 years of age.
Mm.
And I notice little things, but sometimes they say as a parent working in the field, you can't overanalyze that you would have to get someone else. So I'm just an observer. So I would observe him looking at the ceiling fan, becoming preoccupied with little things and just him staring. So that threw a red flag. And I said, I'll reach out to early intervention and allow them to do the intake. So after that, he's been receiving services ever since he was about 2.5 years old, and now he's 7. And he has made great progress.
Awesome, awesome. So on it, tell us briefly for someone who doesn't know what exactly is autism.
Autism spectrum disorder, they have a lot of behaviors. It's a broad level. It's mild, moderate, severe, and very severe. It's based off of social skills. If they're sensory, depending on how they touch things, taste things. Some of them have issues with texture. You got to observe the behaviors and just learn everything that they're, just kind of observe their behaviors because they're way different than the regular kid, but it's also just having that knowledge on what to look for. There's let's see, milestones. Always tell parents, did they reach milestones on time, like sitting up, crawling, walking, potty training, things like that. Social communication is a big factor. Are they lacking social skills? Are they nonverbal? And if they're nonverbal, you definitely need to take them to audiology so they can have hearing screening just to see if there's fluid in their ears to where they're unable to hear, for them to have them social skills. Social interaction is another thing, like interacting with peers or siblings, not having that ability to talk. Some of them prefer to be left alone. Repetitious behavior, you'll see some clapping their hands,
Mhm.
making repeated noises, stimming, jumping up and down, excitement. A lot of them, once again, get preoccupied and fixated on people or objects. Sensitivity, some of them are light sensitive to where bright lights may interfere, or certain type of lights may interfere with their seeing. And then sound sensitive, if they hear loud noises, that's when you'll see kids wearing the headphones to kind of limit and
Okay.
decrease the sounds, that they're not like, especially some of my clients use them during fire drills and, in school if they're in a loud environment. Um, some of them have tantrums and meltdowns. These tantrums they begin at 20 minutes, and some of them escalate for a long period of time. And that's when you get appropriate strategies to decrease their behaviors, because a lot of them become aggressive. Sometimes, even when they have these meltdowns, there's no antecedents or triggers. They just, they don't like being told no. So when they're being told no, they react that way. They'll have tantrums. Some of them become aggressive. They may elope or wander. So there are different things that you want to definitely look at, because it's a lot, but you don't want to ignore it, because if you ignore it, they could regress, and then they might not get the help that they need.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, what is Asperger's syndrome? Is that in relation to autism? Is a
It,
relationship per se?
yes, it's a relationship. It's the higher functioning um autistic individuals. They function at a regular level. They're academically there. Their behaviors aren't as significant as you would note. A lot of people don't notice some individuals with Asperger's because they're just function as a regular individual. They're able to work. They're able to go to school. They're able to go to college. They're able to do a lot of things. Some of them do lack the social skills. That's where that part of the Asperger's would come into play.
Okay. Now, as like you said, your son Tyler has been diagnosed with that. Do they actually outgrow that, and how do you prepare them
It's
from?
they. Oh, God, I'm sorry.
No, no. I was gonna say, how do you prepare him from high school when he's graduate high school into adulthood?
Right. So I'm glad you asked that question. In order to prepare them, I always tell parents you have to have a home structure.
Mhm.
They love sameness, which is having the same routine. And when they don't have that routine, or if you know that something's going to change that day, like say if a teacher is not going to be there, you got to prepare them. So home structure is very helpful. Visuals are definitely helpful because they like to see the bright colors. They like to know what's going on step to step, scheduling, routine. Allow them to help at home. You could transfer skills as a parent to other family members. um, Work with your child's treatment team. Your child's treatment team is school staff, pediatricians, doctors, psychiatrists, wraparound team, anybody that's affiliated and is helping your child out in any way, because you want everybody to work on the same page.
Right.
Now with Tyler, I'm preparing him, and it's funny because he's nonverbal. He tries to hold a conversation. He knows what he's saying. We could kind of figure out what he's saying, but it'll take him one time to learn something. And I love Norristown School District. His teacher, Mrs. Sheehan, he's writing his first and last name, his
Nice.
first and last name, and it's very legible. And I'm like, wow, that's awesome. And he learns, and thanks to the occupational therapist, the physical therapist, everyone that's a part, speech and language. And he does have a talker. A talker is an iPad, if no one knows what it is. And the school district usually programs it. You can even send pictures of you and your family members so they can add it on there. And it becomes they can actually press the pictures to make a sentence, and then once you press the end button, it'll have the entire sentence and what your child is requesting. So Tyler, I had to write it down because it's amazing. Tyler knows how to cook without me present.
At
Tyler knows
7 years
how. Yes, and because he watches it. All right, so I have five children. He's the youngest of five. So he watches everybody and he loves learning, he loves being helpful. And they always say these things in his IEP meeting, and I'll get into IEPs later. He knows he bathes himself, he brushes his teeth, he gets ready for school, he packs up his bag in the morning to put his talker in there, the cord, and anything else, his binder. Like I mentioned, he writes his name. He's a great helper. I mean, he does more than my other children. And I always tell them, he does more than you guys. But we're preparing him to do that because he watches and we give him realistic expectations. And people say, well, how do you do this? I said, because I don't treat him like he has a disability. I treat him like he's regular. He gets consequences, he gets he has expectations, and it's not like we're forceful, but he wants that, and he's a good learner, so he definitely cooks and he definitely does all of those things. So we're trying to prepare him in each level. He's only in kindergarten, so he'll be in school till he's 21 years of age. And like you mentioned, when he gets 21, when they're 18, usually the school district has everything outlined for the steps you to take, even beginning at 18, start to have the 18-year-old apply for Social Security under their name. I recommend guardianship. Guardianship is when your child, like, that's good to have so they can't make the executive decision for themselves. They're always going to need someone to help them. So becoming a guardian, just so things don't fall out of place, that they'll always have that help. So there are things that we're preparing. And then I also prepare my clients to do the same thing as well. And I work with their families.
Okay, great. Now, here's a follow-up question that I had from an early one before. Um, does one have to wait to have their child tested for autism? Do you
No,
recommend that?
no. Once you notice, or if you have like a daycare or childcare facility that notices some signs, they may just make a recommendation like, oh, okay, they're not talking, or they're having meltdowns, or they're eloping, or they don't want to be bothered by others. You call the MCIU and get in touch with the early interventions department. They service 0 to 3 years of age children. Once you do that, the child care facility and the family has to do a questionnaire, and then they'll schedule either a virtual or in-person assessment to where they can see where your child falls at. They might not give you a diagnosis right away, but they want to see how occupational therapy, speech and language, and physical therapy goes. And then after that, once you turn 3, it becomes the MCIU, 3 to 5 years of age,
Hmm.
where they'll continue services, but under the MCIU to see if your child made progress. That's when you get the IEPs that have the goals, the objectives, and the measurable, make it measurable, and going based off of their behaviors. And after the MCIU, when they're 5 years old, the school district picks up the IEP. And then that's when a lot of assessments are completed and to determine if they continue to need them services or do they need more services, depending on their behavior and academic.
Okay, so it sounds like then once the diagnosis is made, then the school district plays a pivotal role in the help and care of this child. How would
Absolutely.
one know if a particular theme, not theme, but therapy is right for that child? Do,
They do assessments. There's so many assessments out. There's the Gilliam, and then there's the ATEC. There's a questionnaire, about 20 something, 30 questions based on like if your child's language, hearing, if they're having potty training issues, constipation, if they're lethargic, other behaviors, tantrums, how often, things like that. Are they sleeping? Because that's a huge challenge with some kids. Are they sleeping? So based on how they're scored, that's where they could determine what type of services your child needs. And then they track it to make sure they're doing okay. If they're not, they'll increase the time or they'll have an alternative plan in place.
okay, Great. How's Tyler doing? It does he get to group with kids that
Yes,
have
he does.
okay, and
Yeah.
he interacts with them well?
Yes, he does. I think he thinks he works for his teacher because
Well, we
he
do look
helps her.
that way.
Right. I think he thinks he's just an employee. He's not a student.
Great.
Yeah, but
Miss Wharton, you have written a book about autism. Tell us about that
all
and the
right. So
journey.
in the book, I have it in both English and Spanish. And when I was writing the book, it was pretty much of the beginning when I was in the beginning of learning about autism.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of information that I need to update, but I know there's been a slight increase in the Hispanic population, and I know they're not a lot of them may not be aware of autism spectrum disorder, and this is why I made it. I published it in Spanish just so they can have those resources. And so about my book, I talk about the different levels. I've worked with over 30 children with autism spectrum disorder. And I tell you one thing, they're all different. They're great to work with. They're comical, they're funny, and they say what's on their mind. So I always tell people, do not just listen to them. You could correct them. Don't be mad. That's just them. I'll talk about the signs and symptoms, the behaviors, the observations, what to look for, things you can do at home, my beliefs on autism, my professional and personal backgrounds. And people always ask me, what are your beliefs on autism spectrum disorder? So my response is they want to know if it's environmental or is it genetics? And I say kind of both, but I'm leaning more on the genetic side. And I'm going to tell you why. About 6 to 8 years ago, I did research on autism spectrum disorder, and it stated that it could be possibly a stem from schizophrenia. So, and I mentioned that to people, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I do have a few family members in my family that have schizophrenia." So, a lot of people agreed was and said that, but I do know families that have all autistic children, or maybe just one or two out of five. I have five children and only one is autistic. So I don't think it's the environmental factor. I believe it was a result of genetics. And what else is in the book? I have case studies in my book, and how to deal with tantrums and meltdowns, the de-escalation process, which is very challenging because they become destructive. They become really frustrated. And, once again, at home, Tyler doesn't really play with electronics at home. Once in a while, he might play on my son's phone, but I try to limit that because they become so preoccupied with it
Mm-hmm.
that they'll have a tantrum when it dies because they don't have the concept of charging it, or they just become preoccupied with that because they feel like that's the only thing they have. So we replace it. Tyler's a writer. He just writes his name and he writes letters and numbers and things that he learns from school. So I don't even have to ask him, Tyler, what you learned from school? He'll just grab paper and just write. And I know that's what he did for the day before I read his communication journal. Um, manipulatives are good. I get a lot of my manipulatives from Mrs. Phyllis Mason. She's a Discovery Toys representative. And
Oh, I know
yeah,
her.
I love it. And oh yeah, this is one thing Tyler enjoys. It's called Busy Farm. It's like you categorize the colors, the different animals, and they give you cards with it. So I give him Tyler's 7 physically, and I explain to my kids because sometimes they get frustrated. Tyler is 7 physically, but mentally he's about 3.5, 4 years old.
Mm.
Right, right. But he's still good with picking up different things. And I encourage families to enforce writing at home because that's one of the main reasons why a lot of kids get frustrated, because when they're in school doing writing sessions, writing workshops, they'll say, oh, write a sentence. Some kids will just get frustrated and have a meltdown, and then the token economy system is utilized. And if nobody knows what a token economy system is, it's just a behavior chart where they can earn an incentive after 4 or 5 stars. Don't make it too broad. Make it something easy, like just a star or something fun that they enjoy doing, just to keep them engaged. And
attainable.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Wait, what resource groups are there in Norristown? Because you're in Norristown. Are
I'm
you
in
part
Norristown.
of a support group in Norristown for
I'm
autism?
so, say that again. I'm sorry.
Are there any support group in Norristown for autism that you're aware of?
There is a couple, and that's what I was going to recommend parents to do. Join different Facebook or in-person support groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually trying to do certain support groups for the area, just so they can have that knowledge. On my what's it called website, I
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of things for like I have a lot of videos that people can observe of Tyler. I have workshops, videos, different visuals that they can download and print. And if anyone ever needs me to send them in a Word document, I can just do that. All you have to do is shoot me an email. Different behaviors, resources, and onlinebookclub.org gave me a 4-star rating. And not many people get 4 stars, but I got a lot of positive feedback and it made me proud
That's
because if I
awesome.
got 4 stars now and I have to still update this information that's in here and make it more detailed, then I know I'm actually doing the right thing. So,
That's great, and that's a great resource too for the community here in Norristown,
right, right.
especially with the increase in the Hispanic
Different.
population.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Great, great, great. Okay, we'll take a break. We'll get
Okay,
a word in from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back. But for
okay,
the audience, please like and share this video. We'll be
okay. Thank you.
Are you dealing with estate or loan documents? Or perhaps an international business? Welcome to Paris Mobile Notary, your solution for notary services 24/7, 365. At PMN, we put customer service first, coming to you for all your notary needs, including apostille and authentication, document delivery, I-9 verifications, estate documents, prenup and postnup agreements, affidavit, mortgage documents, identity verifications, and so much more. We proudly serve Montgomery, Bucks, Delaware, Chester, and Philadelphia counties, and can't wait to work with you. So contact us today for your next signing at parismobilenotary.com or call us at 610-825-3300. Paris Mobile Notary, at your service anytime, anywhere.
Yeah, that's Paris Mobile Notary. All right, welcome back. So,
Yeah,
Dennis, just to continue, I'm sorry I called you Dennis. Erica, to continue from where we left off, you
uh,
mentioned that you're thinking about having a resource, an autism resource. Can you promise me when you have that all worked out, you come back and share with us here at
absolutely,
Morning Country?
absolutely.
Events we have coming up, and but Dennis, Erica's gonna be right here with us. We'll be right back. In the meantime, let's share some events we have coming up in and around the Conshohocken area. Next Tuesday afternoon, we have a women's connecting lunch that's going to be held over at the Montgomery County Technical School, and that's going to be from noon until 1:30. Cost for lunch is $25, and that's all going paid for the students there to prepare the meal for us. You can get your tickets at moncomedia.com/events. Our next event is the Notary Monthly Breakfast Meetup, and that's usually held the third Sunday of each month, but it being Easter, it's going to be held on the fourth Sunday, which is the 24th of April, and that's from 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. over there at Andy's Diner at 505 Ridge Park in Conshohocken. To RSVP for that event, you'll go to notarytoday.pro/events. And it's National Healthcare Decisions Day on the 16th of April. But we are hosting a webinar on the 26th of April, and it's going to be from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. It's a free event via Zoom. You would need to register for that. And it's at moncomedia.com/webinar, where we'll help you to get the conversation started about those decisions that we need to have in place before we are no longer able to. Like, do we have a will? Do we have a power of attorney? Who do I leave responsible for certain documents that we need to prepare for? And let's continue back now with Denise. We have one more item. Is a High Mother's Day tea, and that's being sponsored by the Miss Caribbean US. That's going to be held on the 1st of May over there at the Parks Casino. It's from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Tickets are $75. Join us if you can. And Miss Wharton, welcome back. Before we go, I am so happy that you joined us here. Good morning, country.
Yeah.
Parting words before you go.
I'm sorry, say that again.
May I have some parting words before you go, or any
Yes.
events you have coming up?
Yes. I'm the George Washington Carver Center president. We're having a upcoming talent show for youth, any community from anywhere, from sixth grade to 12th grade. Talent show, and then we're going to have a big swim party following because we are approaching our 62nd anniversary
Oh,
for on May 30th, 2022. But the event is May 29th, 2022, starting at 1 o'clock p.m. And my favorite quote is patience is virtue.
awesome. Thank you. Thank you for watching us here. Good morning, country. We are always looking for members to feature on our show. If you know, or if you yourself are a business owner, or you have an event coming up, please reach out to us here at Good Morning Country to be featured. I am your host, Teresa Brown Paris. I'm glad you joined us. And today, from both myself and Mrs. Wharton, we're glad you joined us.
Thank
Thank
you, everyone. I appreciate it.
you.
Thank you, Teresa.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you for
Bye bye.
watching.